it's Nikki and welcome to your Monday Motivation, your bite-sized snack of inspiration to start your week right. And as always, we pay our respects to the traditional owners of the land on which we record this podcast, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. Oh my goodness, everyone, I feel so excited. This is the very first time I am recording from my podcast studio, which is directly adjacent to the Cinch studio, and so far so good. I'm really excited to hear about the sound quality, of course, whether or not it's annoying, whether it's too noisy here, but it feels so nice to be in my little space, and the fact that it's so close to my studio, which is so reflective of our values at Cinch. It just feels right to be here. And as well as that, this is the first time recording it on video, because some of you have asked me, can I record it for you to watch? Probably not so exciting when it's me by myself, but maybe quite exciting when I have a guest. And I'm doing that today as well. I mean, why do one new thing when we can do several at the same time and really add some stress to my day? So today we are talking about muscle memory. Now, if you know me and you have trained with me, you'll know that I frequently say things like, there is no such thing as muscle memory. Your muscles do not have brains. Your muscles cannot count reps. Your muscles can't remember things or have emotions. That's not what muscles do. However, what we do is say, when we think of muscle memory, we often think of, are your muscles able to remember a particular movement? Like riding a bike, like doing squats, whatever. And what that is all about is the neural pathways, the connection between brain and muscle. And once that is formed, yes, it is easy to go back and reform it, but it's not per se muscle memory. So let's get into it. If you don't know me, I am Nikki. I am your strength and conditioning coach. I'm your biggest cheerleader, and sometimes I am your gentle drill lieutenant. But also, I'm an exercise scientist. I'm an exercise nerd, and I really love sharing with you the latest about what's happening in the exercise world, and maybe helping you to demystify some myths while we're at it, So let's talk about when you have a break from training. Now, let's say you've been swanning around Europe, as many of my clients do, and maybe thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to go back and it's going to feel horrendous. And you come back and it actually feels really good. And you think, my goodness, I actually have bounced back way faster than I thought I would. Maybe the first week feels a little bit challenging, and then you actually feel amazing again. So that absolutely can happen, and that is not just your imagination, it's your epigenetics. So today we're going to talk about muscle memory, but not the old school, your muscles remember how to do particular exercises, but we're going to talk about how your muscles can respond to the strength that they've been in the past, and what's actually going on at a cellular level when you return to training after some time off. And one of the things I would say to you as well is, if you are taking an extended break, not so much through sickness, although this can still maybe apply, but particularly when you're traveling and you're off for an extended amount of time, let's say over 4 weeks, did you know that you can maintain your strength by doing one fairly high intensity, in weight training terms, that means getting close to your level of momentary muscular failure. I don't mean jumping up and down and doing sprints. I mean high intensity weight training. If you do one hard workout a week, that is generally going to be enough to maintain strength and muscle mass for about 6 weeks while you're away. So that is really great news for those of us who love to travel, and you might be able to perceivably find one gym in your travels and just do one pretty solid total body workout, and that can be enough to maintain. So that's great news, isn't it? Our bodies are very, very forgiving. So let's go back to muscle memory. Like I say, when most of us think of muscle memory, we think of skill retention. So like riding a bike, like doing a perfect bench press or a deadlift. And yes, your nervous system does recall movement patterns because of those neural pathways having been formed already. I always imagine it in my mind like a bushwalking path that has been used for hundreds of years, and then for another few hundred years it's not used. But you hack away the growth, and lo and behold, beneath that path is still there. There's a whole other layer to this, and it's that your muscle cells do recall past training experiences right down to the DNA level. So a 2025 study published in Cell Metabolism looked at trained people who stopped exercising for several months and then they restarted again. And they found that previously trained individuals regained both strength and muscle size faster than people training for the very first time, even though both groups were training in exactly the same way. Why is this so? And it's because of epigenetic changes, chemical tags that sit on your DNA and basically say, oh, you've done this before. You know this. It's like your muscles keep a little file labelled hypertrophy, access granted. So when you come back to training, those lights switch on much more quickly for you. And I have to say, I think that there is potentially a psychological element to this as well. Because when you have labelled yourself perhaps as an athlete, or labelled yourself as a lifter, or you know what your previous PB was. I know that in the past I bench pressed 50 kilos. Now that I'm starting back after months away and I'm starting back at 20 kilos for my bench press, I have a much more fixed idea of what I can potentially do. I know my genetic potential thus far, and it makes it much quicker to get back to that because you think of yourself as a strong person. So let me tell you why this science is such a game changer, particularly for us midlife women. So let's say you've had a break, you've travelled, you've had an illness or an injury, or maybe just life gets lifey. Maybe you feel guilty because you're thinking, oh my goodness, I've done all of that hard work and I've bloody lost it all. What have I done? Okay, you haven't. You haven't lost it all. You've just paused momentarily, maybe for a few months even, but you haven't deleted it because your muscles will spring back. And how reassuring is this? Because I think that sometimes we feel like, oh my gosh, we've stopped and we've thrown the baby out with the bathwater. So even after months away, your prior training gives you a big advantage. And this is what researchers now call the muscle memory effect. And it's partly due to the increase in myonuclei, the control centers within your muscle fibers. And once you gain them, they tend to stick around, even though you may notice some atrophy, that your muscle fibers do shrink, albeit hopefully temporarily. So when you start lifting again, you're not starting at zero, you're starting from a point of stored potential. Now, if you're listening to this and you may have even had a break from cinch, I know it gets hard over the school holidays, and I know you guys travel a lot, so you do often step away, and it can be hard coming back to get again, because it's like having your hand in a bucket of sand. You pull your hand out and all life kind of intervenes. Suddenly, you know, those evening sessions get harder to come back to. You might have got back into working a little bit later at work to make up for your time away, or the kids need you, or maybe the kids have a particular activity that they slot in, and suddenly your time in the studio, which is so important for you, gets filled up with other things. I get it. Your muscles remember. So good. So here's a quick nerdy little sidebar on epigenetics. Your DNA is like a recipe book, and epigenetics are, you know, when you put little sticky notes on the pages, or maybe you turn the page down, they highlight certain recipes, maybe not others, and training is the sticky notes on your muscle building recipes. And those notes, they don't fall out, they hang around, and so they don't get wiped just because you skipped the gym for 6 months. So this means that once you've trained, especially with resistance training, you've essentially primed your DNA to respond faster the next time you train. How cool is that? Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, and that's perimenopause and beyond. And it's a time, we all know this, where energy can dip, almost certainly does dip, especially as we see a decrease in testosterone. Sleep can be all over the shot. It feels like having a newborn again. I know that you're waking up at 2 a.m, you might get to sleep okay, but then you've got the anxiety at 2 a.m, and then again, you might wake up again at 4:30 a.m. You're thinking, I'll go to the 5:30 a.m. session, and it's like, well, no point going back to sleep now, I might as well just stay awake. And then when you look at your sleep overnight, you've been asleep for maybe 4 or 5 hours. So motivation can vanish. That's often tied in with sleep, or it might be tied in with you feel like your body has really changed in a way that you don't particularly like and you're not used to, or maybe it feels like your body's kind of glitching. And it's also a time when a lot of us women fall out of consistent training, and then we feel defeated when we try to get back into it, or maybe we feel a little bit worried about getting into it again. So again, here's the reframe. You're not starting over. You are reawakening adaptations that are already coded in your muscle. How good is that? And the effort that you've already put in as a younger woman, even if it feels like ancient history to you, it is still serving you. So you know that saying of thanking your younger self or your previous self for what you're doing today? This is such a classic example of this. Thanking your younger woman self for all of the effort, all of the hard work you've already put in. It's still serving you, and you can trust your body to respond again, and in many cases way faster than it did the first time. And here's a time also to remind yourself that strength training isn't about perfection or about long streaks of consistent training, although that is awesome too, but it is about playing the long game because you're building a body that remembers. So if you're returning to training after some time off, here's how to lean into that muscle memory. Start with compound moves. Now, if you train at Cinch, you'll notice our first exercise whenever you come into the studio is some sort of compound move, which means it is a multi-joint, multi-muscle exercise, whether it's squats, whether it's deadlifts, whether it's bench press, whether it's a bent over row. It is something where multiple joints are in action. So it is using a lot of energy. Secondly, use progressive overload, fairly slowly, but at the same time, don't be afraid to challenge yourself. Progressive overload is amazing. One of the most common things I see with brand new people to Cinch is progressive overload is very, very slow, and you're a little bit cautious about going too heavy too quickly. And whilst that is great, you are stronger than you realize. So don't be frightened to go up a little, maybe 5-10% increments as we go along, particularly on those weeks where your repetitions drop down, your weight must go up, because not only then are you lifting the same as what you were the previous week, you're doing less because you're doing less volume. So use progressive overload. Focus on consistency over intensity. You don't need to crush it on your first day back, but you do need to show up regularly. And if you're training with a trainer, we will help you get to where you need to go. Trust me on that one. Fuel your body properly. I'm going to put sleep into fuel because sleep is where we recover and we have protein resynthesis and we get stronger. Basically, our muscle fibers recover in that time. But we also want to make sure we are having a balanced diet. All of your macros, protein, carbohydrates, fat, not alcohol so much. That's macro that we kind of like to do without. protein is a big important one. We talk a lot about protein on here, so as a midlife woman, make sure that you're hitting your protein macros, generally of around 100 grams a day or more. And most of all, celebrate yourself. Celebrate your body's ability to come back. That's not failure. That's bloody resilience. That is amazing. Oh my goodness, I hope you loved that session. That's it for today. Remember, your body is smarter than you realize because your muscles remember the amazing training that you have done in the past, and they are ready and they are primed for what's next. Remember, if you loved this episode, please share it with a friend. Follow along for the fun. And as always, lift heavy, rest deeply, keep showing up for yourself. I love you and you are worth it.